Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining us today. We have Sasha and Hillary from Executive Digital. Digital is one of the leading digital marketing agencies in the world, and we're really honored to have you guys as our guests today. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the world right now, because everything is just kind of flipped upside down. Sasha, Hillary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Hey guys, thanks for having us. Ladies first though, and I'll introduce myself after Hillary.
Thanks, Sasha. I'm Hillary Bost, and I've been with Executive Digital for 2 years now, but I've been in the SEO game for about 12. Moved to Raleigh about 8 years ago, and I've been loving it ever since. That's about all I got.
Nice.
that's a good brief intro. She forgot to say that she's an absolute SEO rock star. And Hillary's also our manager for the North Carolina office, and so that's what we accompanied her for. My name is Aleksandar Sasha Jovicic. I've been the Chief Executive Officer for Executive Digital for the last 9 years of our existence. I've been in the SEO space for 25. SEO is my life, and as my wife can tell you, I don't actually know how to do anything else but SEO. So it's a little intro on me.
I love that. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to have you. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Specifically, how have things changed for you guys at Executive Digital? I'd love to see it from your perspective first.
Well, it's really interesting because we saw it sort of coming and grinding to a halt early. So we look at it twofold. One, what about clients? And two, what about staff? From the staff perspective, obviously, the first thing we did is we made sure that everybody went to work from home. And we quickly switched. We have 8 different offices around the globe in 11 different time zones. And it was the first challenge was how do we get everybody to quote unquote safe space away from the usual collateral spaces. Obviously, there's smaller offices that don't have a lot of staff, but still just having that comfort. And so that was step one for us to really just take care of the staff who will then take care of the clients. So that was sort of step one. Step two, we went to our clients and said, what can we do to help? And that we pivoted quickly. As you can imagine, for example, our South Florida office or our New York City office, clients that are closing down, the restaurants, dentists that had mandatory closures, those guys were the first to go on the line of billing. And so we had to pivot, pause billing, switch into hyper advertising mode to help people understand the models. Certainly the visual design, graphics teams, social teams, SEO blog teams had their hands cut out. So the work accelerated so the communication from our clients to their end users would accelerate. So frankly, in the last week and the week before, we were sort of in a crazy crush 20-hour-a-day mode, and all of our staff members across the globe really stepped up to the plate to accomplish all these massive day-to-day changes of just communication. So, that's sort of how we positioned it in the initial onset of the rollout of this thing.
That's really cool. So, you guys were basically prepared, and you had the advantage of already having a lot of remote workers too, right? I think that made a huge. There's a lot of agencies that are very old school, very traditional, and they had to scramble last minute to come up with ways to work from home.
We were built as a company that you can work from home. So let's start there. I think that's a big differentiating factor. We have obviously all 8 of our offices are fully staffed, and so we've never had quote unquote remote workers. But certainly we built the back-end systems, the communication, CRM, CMS, just the whole flexibility of having an international firm set us up for success if, not that we knew this would happen, but certainly if there was a need to work from home, whether one or all 158 employees, we had that early on. And matter of fact, definitely, as I'm sure you guys can remember, when the hurricane hit 2 years in a row down here in Florida, where our corporate office is, we already were sort of like, it sounds weird, but we were corporate preppers. So we're like, okay, so what happens if, where do docs go? And so we, the hurricanes of the Miami office and the chase away from that stuff sort of prepped us for this what happens if scenario. And right. I think it put us in a great spot. I'm not ideal, but certainly from a functioning standpoint, the clients appreciated and still appreciate every day the sort of the jump on the adaptation of the new quote unquote life, right?
Absolutely, definitely, because the quicker you can adapt, the less of an impact it'll have on their marketing operations. So everybody needs a prepper friend or two.
Or 5.
Yeah, or 5. And you guys also have another interesting perspective being an international agency. I'm definitely curious. Have you noticed, or has this had a different effect for your offices? Just kind of all over the world, or is the effect pretty similar regardless of where they're at?
It seems to be the same exact effect. It was just rolled out on a different day. So our Norwegian office, for example, closed 7 days before the order to close came in, and then our Serbian office closed 3 days later, 7 days before the order came in. So we sort of felt it coming as it started rolling out, and frankly, we just followed the same pattern. Guys, grab your stuff, go home, go remote, go plug into our back-end systems that we've got, VPNs and the rest, and then move on. And so I think the downtime was not there because it was a segmented rollout. Not every office shut down the same day, and not every office went home to work from home. So yeah, I think that helped.
Very interesting. Yeah, you guys got to sort of see what it was going to look like for us here before get us here a little bit in advance.
It's interesting, but yes, absolutely. And what's funny is I was in Berlin pitching a brand new client. Gosh, it's been 3.5 weeks now, Hillary, I think? About 3.5 weeks ago. So I was in Berlin talking to this potential huge client, and they're telling me like, something's really weird and people are honestly getting sick and blah, blah, blah. It was crazy. And watched them completely go into shutdown mode, 7 days later after I came back from Germany? So we're talking a couple weeks ago, and it's really interesting that it was that meeting plus us watching the countries react that sort of segmented away for us. But yeah, very interesting.
And I'm curious too. So a lot of local businesses, I'm sure where you are as well, are just completely shutting down. They're unable to operate. They're not able to do anything. Whereas a lot of the larger firms, a lot of the tech companies, they are still up and running, and they're still able to continue a lot of their marketing efforts, continue everything. But I do feel like it's going to have a delayed effect because even if they're still running, the people who are spending the money are at home not making any. How has this whole thing, affected client work at all? Have you guys seen anything, or do you predict any patterns or anything like that over the next couple of months?
I feel the one thing that got floated, and we have obviously our senior management is a team of about 18 people. And so actually yesterday on a call, yesterday being Monday, I think it was, on a Monday call, we sort of talked about this is another lesson in as a marketing firm, talking and addressing the needs of recession-proof businesses. And we're glad to be able to help we're not a niche player. We're SEO experts and digital marketing experts, but we don't focus on any one industry. But certainly, as this occurs, you take a step back, and I think you look at it and go, wait a minute, what happens to my firm if I tie myself to businesses that are not recession-proof? And there's no such thing as recession-proof, but I mean, as a concept, it's a valid conversation. And I think one of our director of marketing brought it up, and she said, how does this make us pivot? We've always been able for the last decade help any industry, any niche, e-com, local, hyperlocal, MSO, just everywhere. And we've got clients that are $500 million companies, and then we have $1 million companies as clients. But I think the conversation in marketing advertising firms should and will pivot into what's a recession-proof business, who needs beyond. And I'm not saying that the other industries won't be served, but I believe that pivot will occur where people have to stop in our industry and go, dang, how does that not happen again? How do I not lose? Imagine all the small newspapers, the small medium shops that had nothing but restaurant and bar clients right now. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're not talking about 2% loss. You're talking about complete shutdown of the industry. All the niche players for the hotel, all the niche players for dentists, right? All those hyper niche companies that now, and by the way, I've been in this industry long enough to know a lot of the players that are in the niche players. Those guys just lost everything. When I say lost, I mean they lost all revenue, let go of their teams and staff. So
it wasn't even over. Weird. It wasn't even like 2008 where things slowed down. This was instant, like complete catastrophic.
2008 was a long rollout. I think people forget 2008 didn't start in 2008. Like you started seeing the peaks like the summer of 2007, and so you had this slow onset where California is like, oh, I'm losing the value of my houses. Like, oh my God, my bank's returns are not. So I think, I call it the 2007 through 9 recession. I don't call it 2008. I think it hit, majorly. But shit, look what happened. This happened in the last 10, 12 days. I mean, this acceleration, right? We're almost done in March. This acceleration, these guys, the owners and friends of mine, dear friends of mine who are in the space, competitors, part of this marketing advertising industry is just completely barreled into nothing. And we were lucky, not lucky, but we over the years, we grew as an entity to hopefully deflect that if it ever happened. Not that we knew it would, but certainly I think it's a lesson learned for every firm out there. Don't be a niche player, because if your niche goes out of style, you may not have money to eat and feed your family and staff. And so we'll see what happens in the next 12 months. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, describing the last time that we went through kind of economic downturn, everything was very slow. Just like you said, it was slow to go down. It was slow to go back up. I've heard some people make comments and talk about how, with this being so immediate, that it's supposed to bounce back. What are your thoughts on that, Sasha?
Ability to bounce back. I think it depends on what part of the industry you're talking about, right? Sanitation, cleaning, janitorial supply. I think all those companies will bounce back faster. A restaurant who just laid off 70 or 80 or 90% of its staff, how do you bounce back? Especially if that staff is now upset, no longer there. And I've heard a lot of financial companies letting people off. I'm not talking about big giants. I'm talking 20 to 50 mil a year gross revenue companies. So I'm a forever optimist, but I don't think it's going to be that fast. Certainly, I would love for it to be immediate, but I got to be, as a realist, I don't think it's going to bounce back in the way people think. I think you've got a lot of upset people. I think you've got a lot of people forget the health and the risks associated with the disease, right, with the virus. But I think people are upset at their employers and their staff and their banks, that there's a lot of negative anger, and that's now immediate. It didn't take 2 years. It took 10 days for it to explode into oblivion. So I don't believe that. And honestly, I got to be honest with you, I think it's regional. I think every state is different. I got a friend of mine who owns a ranch in Wyoming, hasn't retired for the last 4 years. He's fine. He's got cows and sheep and vegetables, and he doesn't really rely on the day-to-day activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy who's paying $6,000 a month in Manhattan, that for a condo, that just lost his job at a financial firm, a leading capital firm. Hopefully he saved a lot. But what does that guy do? What is the severity? And there's no excuse and there's no pattern. But this is going to be weird. It's going to take some time. Hillary, and I want to deflect to Hillary for a second, because my perspective is different. I look at all my clients and my staff and my partners, and I see that as channels. But here's I guess we can ask Hillary, what do you think? What do you see in Raleigh? What's in Miami, people are praying quickly for the number one hospitality industry. Our industry is hospitality, obviously Miami, but in Raleigh, when you guys walk around Raleigh, what's the conversation like with the local business owners, right? Do they think it's going to bounce back fast?
I think everybody's just real wary to even think about that right now. They're more hunkered down and worrying about what they can do to help their employees and what they can do to help the community. I mean, I do think, like you said, Sasha, cleaning industry, sanitation, all of that will bounce back. I think if restaurant owners were smart in how they handled things, and, they weren't just, going month to month and just wait and see if it gets better. The businesses that have been around for a long time and have, waged through many problems, whether it's a snowstorm, a hurricane, a flood, a tornado, or what have you. This is completely different, and it's new territory. And hopefully, if they've, done their due diligence and running their business at, as effectively as they can, they should be able to bounce back rather quickly, because I think the people around here know that these guys need money. They need money in their pockets. They're out of work. What can we do to help them?
Definitely.
And that's kind of how everybody.
And because listen, the reason why I asked that question, Hillary, and I think it applies evenly, is, to me, it tells a lot about the state of our world and our country, that if you have a business that you're running with 100 employees yesterday and you can't survive tomorrow, that's not a moral question. That's a financial, fiscal health question. That's, that we can have a call on that just by itself. But it's dangerous. There's companies that lost millions of dollars overnight, and that's not diminished by any value. You can't prepare for that, certainly. But the real question is then, does that pivot future plans of every industry, not just marketing industry? I think the answer is yeah. I think people have to replan what the next steps are. And that, I think, is going to be part of the bounce back. How fast we bounce back will be tied to people really pivoting as fast as possible to adjust post-COVID-19.
Agreed.
Agreed. And I think it does matter what region you're in, because Miami is one of those areas like New York where you don't really say hello to people. You don't hold doors. You just kind of go about your way. And,
True.
In our region, if you don't hold a door open, you're being rude.
I think if you hold the door open anywhere right now, people are like, nope, thanks, I'll pass. We're gonna make a little out of this. This is a true situation. I'm glad, because you pointed out Miami. A dear friend of mine owns a private transport company. He picked up a client on a private jet, nevertheless, and she told him, "Don't worry, don't open the doors. I got it, gloves in hand." And it's like, even that, what's expected is, and forget the cultural, but even the service level has changed. And it's funny how we became so hyper aware of these things that we didn't pay attention to. And we have to make some light of this thing. I think a lot of people are, really negatively affected. And so if we don't inject a little bit of that positive air of funniness, I think it all goes to hell anyway. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, we gotta make sure that we're mentally okay too.
Yeah,
and I do
exactly.
think there's going to be some permanent changes, and not all are going to be bad, right? As I agree, like this is a tough situation for sure, but there will be some good that will come out of this. I know it's going to force a lot of businesses to operate moving forward with bigger reserves, like they should have been probably to begin with. And from a marketing perspective, I want to pivot to that a little bit. You guys are kings of SEO. You guys do that really, really well. And I think right now a lot of companies are reevaluating where they invested all of their advertising and marketing money for. I know I've had a lot of conversations.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with people that spent most of their marketing budget in one place. And what happens when you can't afford to keep your ads on? You're gone. But if you invest in SEO and
that's
content,
the point that I always like to make, that you need to spread out where you're spending your marketing dollars, because if you do just invest in paid advertising, that can go down the hill real quick, especially with the way Google's been.
Yeah. And I think to that point, I mean, the reason why I was saying ooh is because for those of us who have been in the digital industry since the industry was an industry, or maybe even before, I think there's been a constant battle of marketing versus advertising. So when you do see brands, regardless of size, regardless of industry or geo, channel themselves because this is what works, and yet skip the foundational efforts of brand development, then how do you come back from that and go, damn, I told you, you know what I mean? Like, you should have diversified your approach, just like you diversify the portfolio. Billboards still work, radio still works, TV still works. Don't let the naysayers say it doesn't work. PPC ads work, Instagram works, social influencing works, but not the same way for everybody. And for those of us who've gone back and talked about what happens in a time of crisis when you don't have a brand and nobody cares about your advertisement, those companies who only solely relied on advertisement are now screwed. And you scratch your head and you go, wait a minute, what did we tell you 12 months ago, 18 months ago? And I think what should happen, and I certainly hope it does from our marketable marketing perspective, is that these brands will actually open their eyes and say, dang, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we should diversify. Maybe we should listen to the experts that lead these industries, just like we're experts in our respective industries, and not wait and prepare for situations that you couldn't prepare to begin with. But you could have done things to leverage the situation better and prepare better. And, Hillary, I'm glad you brought that up, Hillary, because for years we've spent traveling and flying and pitching brands and, you get stuck in this little one mindset, and you look at the company and say, well, what happens if 2008 repeats itself, right? Or 2009 H1N1 shutdown, or 2017 Hurricane Florida shutdown in Southeast region. And it's not like we don't have these precursors. It's just somehow people are not ready. And I think the marketing firms have an absolute, I think, responsibility that as experts, you have to tell your clients, here are the things that can affect your brand through good or bad. Does that mean you stop working? No. The recession, situations, viruses, illnesses, you can't stop. You got a mouth to feed your family, friends, neighbors, kids, staff. So what happens? How do you get ahead of that? And I think Hillary is, having been in the industry for a decade, can tell you, it's like we beat our head against the wall and say, why not pay attention to what we're saying? It's not the first rodeo.
Definitely. And Hillary,
and the other point to that is
oh, go ahead.
When you have all your eggs in one basket and the basket breaks, what are you going to do then? You've spent all your money in one area and it used to work and it doesn't work now. And then something like this comes along, this is like the time to make a brand play. People are scrolling through their social media feeds. They are looking at the news. They are constantly bombarded with information and ads. Now is I hate to say it, is a great time to start building your brand on social media. And it's a lot more than just being like, hey guys, hope you're staying healthy and well in COVID-19. It's, giving them actionable
it's insanity,
tips.
Right?
It's things that they can do to
100%.
help their business, to help their clients, and do whatever they can to be a positive presence online.
But and to that point, just to wrap that up, Louise, like for me, imagine the brands that did get ahead of it, that their message now carries to an open audience that's built. Imagine the difference and impact to your business, not just today, but in 6 weeks from now, when you have been building a following on social, having the communication through SMS, through digital channels, advertising, organic SEO, email marketing, YouTube channels. Your audience, wherever they may be, will probably ensure your continuation when this shit gets over with, right? There'll be a faster pickup and recovery if you've been working on the elements that we've been banging people's heads on for 2 decades.
Definitely.
And I think that's the frustration that you hear from us that have been in the industry for a long time. It doesn't matter what happens. You still have to do your best to be prepared because you don't know what's happening. This is not the first time our country and the world has had some sort of a crisis. Volcanoes exploding, So I think short-sightedness, should go away. I'm not sure it will, but certainly in our particular industry, my advice, and to mimic Hillary's advice, is if you haven't done it now, up until now, you got to accelerate. Now you should be aware that we told you so is more because we're jerks. It's because we knew that if something happens, that's our job, is to advise on that business expert level. And I think that's where we got to, as a marketing community, have got to do better in the future, is education on those things so people do not forget.
Definitely, because people don't know what they should have known. And one of my other favorite quotes is that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now. So if you were on the fence about doing it, just you might as well just get started now. It's not too late, but definitely should have been something you should have been doing.
Agreed.
And I'll say, knock on wood, none of my SEO clients have canceled or put their account on hold. They know that what we're doing is important for them and that they can't stop doing it. Business has got to keep going. It's got to keep rolling, and you've got to keep building on that foundation.
One of my favorite things about SEO clients is that for the most part, if a decision maker accepted and has agreed to invest money in SEO, usually means that they're already focused on the long term because they understand that it's more of a long-term play. So that makes sense that they wouldn't be freaking out and canceling.
Agreed.
Right.
Obviously the ones that are mandatorily shut down, they don't have a choice but to pause. And none of our clients have quit us. The ones that are in that industry, which is a small percentage of our business, obviously they had to pause because they don't have any revenue and they have no client base to walk into. But It's interesting because that's not the case for all of them. Like some of our clients in the restaurant space, we're closed. we're not going to stop communicating to the world. And so I think it's a combination of what industry are they in, and of course, more importantly, how well as a business owner were they prepared and how much do they understand. That's why I said to the previous conversation from 2 minutes ago, it's on us to educate the business owners and the decision makers, regardless of the size and type, because we kept saying small business. Forget small business. Look at how many big companies just tanked for not taking advantage of some of this leverage. So I think this applies evenly. It just hurts people more or less depending on size and situation. But certainly, I believe it should be applied evenly to everybody's knowledge. Is, hey, prepare yourself with some of these elements that you can control.
Definitely. And I mean, all of this is great. There's definitely a lot of things that we're recommending that brands and businesses should start doing. But what about all the agencies out there that, at the start of the call, we were describing the ones that had very niche client groups and stuff. What do you think they could do to pivot in a time like this and try to be a source of education and trying to just survive? Any advice that you might give other marketers?
Well, I mean, let's think about this and put people into two buckets, right? And how do you pivot if all your clients are restaurants in Orange County, California, for example, and 100% of your income comes from an industry that just shut down? The answer is you don't pivot. You just died with it. And I don't mean to be harsh, but I mean, your business model may not see recovery for weeks. And so if you have no revenue, then you're screwed. And you don't pivot from that because you don't know how fast the industry come back. Now, for the resilient business owners who are flush with cash in the marketing business and put aside for the rainy day and are working with their banks, and many companies are, but that's why I said let's put them in two buckets. If you were a dental firm addressing nothing but dentists down here in South Florida, you just let go, like I just said, 70 out of their 80 staff members, because every single one of their clients is mandatorily closed down by the governor of Florida through May 15th. So they have no way of coming back. They're never going to come back. And because I know the owner of the business, he said, I'm done. After 11 years in this niche of dental, I'm done. So when I go find a job at an agency like yours, and I'm laughing because he told me that to my face. How do you pivot from complete stop? And I think if you have cash, then you call your banks and you call your staff and say, listen, it's a shitty situation. We'll make it through it. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the plan. I'm going to borrow, get some federal funding. You put those things in place. But if you are not prepared, don't have cash reserves, can't wait it out, and the industry that you're tied to exclusively just took a complete dump, I mean, the chance of recovering, probably nothing. And a firm will come by and make an offer to buy your brand or your potential or old book of business, or, you'll have some sort of a not warranted, not wanted exit where you'll shut down permanently. So there's no pivoting from unpreparedness. Does that sound right? I mean, does that feel?
No, absolutely. I get what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is when you are running a niche industry for marketing, you're competing with yourself. So if you're going to diversify your portfolio, diversify your marketing, why don't you diversify your agency so that you don't have to do things like this and worry about shutdowns like this?
Yeah, the word diversification has been thrown out a lot, not just during our conversation, but in the last week. And I think everybody just needs to take a second to look at where their income is coming from, where their marketing dollars are being spent, and how their resources are allocated, for sure. Sure,
and again, there are many companies and agencies. I have a lot of friends in the industry, as I mentioned, that are prepared for this. This doesn't feel good. Certainly, we're feeling the effects of the loss of revenue. It's not fun, but certainly, I think the awareness from how to beyond diversification, preparedness, I think, and it's like a Captain Dom moment, is what happens, and what happens if these things don't keep growing. And our industry, if you remember, and if everybody on this call is listening, really, the last 20 years, this is not the first volatility of the marketing industry.
Definitely.
And
Yep.
I know it sounds stupid, but remember when Google took a flip October 20, was it 11, 12, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years
God.
ago, where the algorithm
Remembers.
completely went awry. Every marketing firm that wasn't prepared lost their clients because they were trying to explain to their clients why they tanked their websites, where in fact it was a Google glitch that took us 2 months to fix. So I think Hillary nailed it, and I'm going to say it again. You should, moving forward, now knowing what you know. If you didn't know, that's okay, but you can't plead ignorance. You've got to pivot quickly, and you've got to adapt quickly. And if that means changing the type of industry that you service, merging, coming to a bigger company saying, listen, hey, I need financial assistance. Would you mind taking on my staff and I give you 20% of my business? M&As should be on everybody's mind. If you're a marketing firm with $1 million cash, go buy 3 smaller companies who are barely hanging on, but they got a great book of business. So I think options are on the table, but I think if you are in the marketing space right now, you should be looking how to pivot any which way. And if you have a great brand, and it's funny because I remember a couple of different quote unquote marketing pros in the past talking about, leverage yourself against capital and blah, 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 blah. Cash is still the king, and you have to be flush with cash in order to continue. So if you weren't cash ready as a business owner, that's okay. Not everybody is, but certainly I think some of the methodologies that I've explained should be approached. Banks will still lend to healthy companies. Private equities are still out there giving money for M&As. M&A pros are looking up to other M&A pros. So I think I don't look at it as doom and gloom. I just feel like you, as a marketer with a marketing firm or advertising firm, now have to think outside the proverbial box to survive this period.
That's an amazing way to put it, Sasha. Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I mean, in general, this whole conversation has been extremely helpful. I'm really hoping that other people will get a ton of value from this as well. But I do want to be respectful, both your time, Sasha, and Hillary. So I think that's a wonderful way to kind of end the conversation. Is there anything that you two wanted to add?
I think we're all, as a global unit, we're all in this together, right? And I want to give a piece of advice that I gave to my senior staff, especially the ones who are sales facing. And this may just work for everybody, may not, but if in a time of need, what's the first thing people need? Do they need a pitch or do they need help? And I think that in this time of need, regardless of your entity type, but if you're a marketing pro, go back to the people in need, offer them services for free, offer them discounts, offer them things, not because you're a jerk, but because you know you can help them recover faster. And whether it's advice or a podcast or YouTube channel video, or you're giving advice on somebody who needs help right now, the local forums have exploded on social media. Everybody's in need of some sort of assistance, right? So share. It doesn't cost you anything to be a good global digital citizen and share your favorite restaurant's takeout menu. You got to do these little things that will help. But for those of us who are in a position to assist big, now it's time to give back. Hopefully you've been giving back and growing your business, more. But if you haven't, your pivot signal is now. Go give to the community. Go earn your money now, right? More so than ever when it's the toughest. And that would be my parting advice. And of course, stay safe and healthy. Thank
you for that, Sasha. And I mean, absolutely. What goes around comes around. That was really well said. Where can people find you guys and reach out to Executive Digital if they have any questions or if they'd like to talk a little bit more?
Obviously, all the social channels of Executive Digital are live. My cell phone is published in all the videos that I do on our YouTube channel. I talk to the audience on IGTV a lot. We have a series on marketing, so you can contact me directly. CEO knows CEO. I give a lot of thought back, but it definitely to the regular channels. We are working 7 days a week, obviously, given the situation. So we're actually working more now than ever, which is great. But certainly, if you go to executive-digital.com, visit our Instagram, IGTV channel, a lot of stuff that we've given back over the years. But more importantly, you guys can reach us through the website, through our cell phones, channels, emails, and any questions. We are able to assist, and we collaborate with a lot. We collaborate with 118 different PR marketing agencies and ad agencies, and they are coming to us because of our size and saying, now what do I do? And we're happy to help and assist and give ideas, but right now really is a time to pay it forward if you haven't done so before.
Absolutely. Well said, Sasha. Thank you so much. And that's executive-digital.com for everybody wondering. But thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you, Hillary. I really appreciate you guys just taking a few minutes out of your busy schedules. And yeah, let's stay in touch and see how we can, get through this together.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Louis. We really appreciate you having us.
No problem.